So today, I'm going to review the Kruve Coffee Sifter. Now, I've used this before. A few of you asked me to review it, having seen it in some of the videos I've done where I compared two different grinders and the kind of quality of grind coming from them. And so today, I'm going to dive into this and tell you what I think. Kruve sent me the nicest set that they offer, which is very kind of them. You get 12 different sized sieves that go inside this thing, and this thing has 3 trays that holds 2 different sieve sizes. Here's the theory. If you have a broad range of particle sizes when you brew a cup of coffee, that's bad, because the very fine pieces will give up their flavor very quickly and begin to over-extract and add quite a lot of bitterness. And then the very large pieces won't extract properly, and they'll end up making the cup a little bit sour. Obviously anything in the middle should brew, ideally, pretty normally. But what you'll get is some tasty coffee, some bitter coffee, and some sour coffee all in one cup. That's not ideal. And so here, you're supposed to add in 2 sieves, one to screen out the largest size, and one to screen out the finest size. Now, because different brew methods require different grind sizes, that's why you've got a bunch of different sieves. Now, one quick thing, I actually think it's a little bit simplistic to talk about coffee as if it's 2-dimensional. Particle sizes are 3-dimensional, and it's really about surface area as much as it's about particle size. You could have a perfectly round particle, and you could have a long, skinny particle that in theory would fit through the same sieve. In addition, I think it's also a little bit complicated to say all fines are bad and should be avoided, and they don't contribute positive things to cups of coffee. But when we dive into this, it's really about who are you and what do you need from this. Now, they do a set that starts at $50 with just 2 sieves, and then it runs all the way up to about $130 for this set. If you're using a pretty cheap grinder, be that a pretty cheap electric grinder, be it a blade grinder, like a whirly blade grinder, if you're using a cheap hand grinder, then to be honest, this probably isn't a good solution for you. In truth, you're better spending $130 on a better coffee grinder. Putting coffee from a cheap hand grinder into this will mean that you screen out quite a lot of particles, and it means you have to put in a lot of ground coffee to get enough of the good stuff out to get a brew. It can nearly double the cost of the coffee you're using due to the amount that you're throwing away. And so for my money, not a great investment. Spend more on your grinder. Now, things change a little bit when you get to the mid-range to the high-end grinders. To get a traditional set of sieves, most people use ones made by a company called Endicott. Now, a single sieve from Endicott may be between $50 to $100 secondhand on eBay. They are expensive. So a full set of sieves like this could run in excess of $1,000. So in comparison, $130 is incredibly cheap. If you want to start messing around with particle size, this is a pretty great way to go. I used it at home for a little while, and then eventually I brought it into work. Because it's square mile, it's much more interesting as an experimental area for us to play around with different stuff. But for me, for my day-to-day, with a decent grinder, a decent brewer, I didn't feel there was a significant bump in quality that yielded adding time, work, and additional cost through wastage to my morning cup of coffee. If I was competing in a barista competition, would I want to experiment with this? I might. Their recommendation for pour-over coffee is to use a 400 micron and an 800 micron sieve. For me, that actually gives a pretty wide range of particle sizes. Some will be literally twice the size of others. And so, while it might be a good way for me to be communicating with a friend about how I'm brewing and the kind of grind size I'm using, it's far from perfect for that. However, if you're a coffee professional and you want to start experimenting with sieving, with different grind sizes, with the effect of uniformity on brewing, this is a much, much, much cheaper option than going down the route of scientific sieves. That isn't to say that this thing is perfect. There are a couple of things about this that frustrate me a little bit. 2 main things. One, the way that this fits together, it just feels a little bit loose and it slips apart quite easily. Secondly, and probably my biggest frustration, is that to change a sieve is a little bit fussy as work goes. Each of the sieves have a little rubber gasket on them that hold them in place. But when you're changing a sieve, it can be quite frustrating to pop in all three sides of that triangle and get them locked in properly. And it's easy actually to have them be unlocked by mistake, and obviously any coffee can just sneak around the side of that. So I wish that it was a little bit easier to change the filters sometimes. I have a little bit of frustration there. Some sizes are easier than others, which is kind of down to the flexibility of the mesh itself. I haven't been able to test the validity of the sizings. Now, I don't have a set of sieves here anymore to compare this to see if it screens out the same amount of 300 micron particles as an Endicott test sieve would do. However, I do think it's pretty useful. It's pretty easy to use. I think it's pretty inexpensive. And I think that if you want to start exploring coffee a little bit more, this is for you. If you want to make your cup of coffee a little bit better in the mornings, I'd probably just invest in a better grinder. It means less wastage, it means less work, less time between you waking up and the first coffee of the day. So overall, interesting professionally, but I'm not sure I'd recommend it for the average home user. I hope you enjoyed the video. One more quick thing. There are t-shirts. So this is the Gym 7 t-shirt. This is the cover of the book that's coming out. The ebook's now live and available, and people asked for some t-shirts, so we made some t-shirts. They're available in lots of different colors. If you want one, I'll leave a link in the description down below. As always, your feedback is welcome. I want to hear what you think. I want to know what you want me to review next. Feedback, comments, questions. If you like it, give it a like. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.